Hey guys, welcome back to CLOWNFISH TV. This is Neon. I'm here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about Patreon and Kickstarter again, and why it is important that you as a creative who may be considering using either of these services be made aware that they are no longer just a payment processor, but they are basically a gatekeeper, a publisher, and the moral authority on who gets to make independent projects on the internet.
The Directors of Decency.
The Directors of Decency.
That's right.
The DOD. The DOD might be DOA. So there has been an update to the Patreon fiasco since I made the last video. Now, if you didn't watch that video, I will give you a quick recap. There was a YouTube user named Sargon Avocad. Now, he does have some controversial opinions to some people. And Sargon had his Patreon funding pulled without warning, according to him. And there has been a huge debacle now with other people, other YouTubers trying to leave Patreon because they're so offended that Patreon basically made this decision based on, not on even what Sargon did on the Patreon platform, but something he said on another YouTube channel. Taken out of context, they decided they were going to be the moral authority and pull his funding.
Right.
This trust and safety team, the Patreon trust and safety team.
Well, I think it's more than that. I think as people are spending an awful lot of time on the internet just going around trying to find things to flag now. I mean, in general.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm this, you know, the internet police, and, you know, they literally spend hours scouring everybody's videos, comments, whatever, to find one thing they can report them on to try to get them banned. It's ridiculous.
Dishing out social justice.
It's just ridiculous.
Well, that's apparently that is how his account got flagged. It was flagged by another user. If you read between the lines, now there was an interview with, now the person who is in charge of the trust and safety team is the focus of this article, which ran the New York Times of all places. So this situation is not quarantined to just YouTube, just Reddit. It's just blown up. It's in the New York Times. This Jacqueline Hart. Now,
oh look, it's a white woman.
It's a white woman.
Telling everybody what they can and can't say. Oh, surprise!
Her team doesn't look very happy. They
can just be busy.
But last week, another YouTuber named Matt Christensen called Patreon and got on the phone with this Jacqueline Hart and kind of got the runaround from her regarding, you know, what the actual rules are, you know, with Patreon, because they have some really dubious
Well, the rules aren't stated. It's like, well, they are, but they aren't. But this is the same with most
case-by-case basis.
Terms of service that can be changed any time kind of thing. But you when you're going to make claims like this and you're going to do something like pull someone's like funding source like this, when it's your job to just take money, not decide who's good and who's bad. When you do this, you better have it set in stone. These are the things that we are going to go after you for. Here's a rubric of, you know, what happens if you do these things.
Yeah.
They don't have that.
Apparently not. Apparently they're just kind of this nebulous, like, we don't condone hate speech, you know, but then, you know, when pressed, Jacqueline Hart was like, well, we take it on a case-by-case basis, you know, and we look at the whole persona. And
well, who the hell they get to decide who's good and who's not? What if the banks all decided, because banks are usually, you know, lean right, what if they all decided that anybody who wasn't right-leaning was problematic, and they weren't going to let them use the banks and they were going to take their mony? What would happen? Because we arbitrarily looked at you as a person and decided you aren't like the person I like, and you didn't vote the way I wanted you to, so I am kicking you out of your bank account.
Yeah, we looked at your voting history. We saw that you had a Hillary bumper sticker on your car in the parking lot. Yeah, we're just gonna lock your bank account, and you're not gonna be allowed to bank with us anymore. And not only that, we're just gonna keep your money too.
Yeah.
Because we're going to use it for social justice.
Right. I mean, or just whatever.
I'm
just saying, it's ridiculous either way. It's a ridiculous scenario. Your job, like a bank's job, isn't to determine if you're a good or bad person. Their job is to process the money, and that's what their job is to do.
Well, that is the fundamental misunderstanding, and this is why it's very important for creators considering, you know, to use Patreon or Kickstarter, especially now, to really think about it, because they are no longer just a payment processor. They are gatekeepers, they are publishers, and
Publishers of what?
they apparently enable you to make your stuff as long as it meets
Whoa,
with
that
their
doesn't make you a publisher.
criteria. Well,
A publisher technically means that you actually produce something, you publish something, or you financially back something. They process the money and take a big cut of it.
Yes.
That does not make them a publisher.
And they're not necessary. But Kickstarter especially fancies itself as a publisher, especially with comics.
Okay, what is their publishing arm, and how many books did they personally pay people to publish?
Well, none, but they...
Then you're not a publisher!
Yeah, I know, but there were stories out there even a couple of years ago about how Kickstarter viewed themselves as a top comics publisher.
Well, I view myself as a princess. Doesn't make me one.
Okay.
I'm
So,
just saying.
let's get into this article. This is coming from the New York Times. Patreon bars anti-feminist for racist speech, inciting revolt. This is kind of misleading because... Now, Sargon is critical, as I'm...
I don't even know him.
I don't watch Sargon. I'm disclaimer. I've said in the last video, too. I don't watch Sargon. I'm somewhat familiar with his content.
I'm not.
He does take shots at third-wave feminism. He was involved in
But I
Gamergate.
take shots of that, too.
He was involved in Gamergate. That puts him on, you know, and he's big. He's got like 900,000 subs on YouTube. So he's got a huge cross.
Well, apparently I was involved in it, too, even though I wasn't, because some guy on Twitter said I was.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You were, you were in Gamergate even though you don't game. Even though you don't game. So, yeah, if somebody on Twitter says it, it's true.
It's gotta be true.
So, for racist speech, yeah, the racist speech was, well, one, it was taken out of context. Two, it was not on Patreon. It was actually on YouTube.
Said that.
And it wasn't even on his own channel. We need to remember
somebody
this.
saw it somewhere else and got mad and ran to Patreon.
Yes.
I don't understand why that logic would apply. I mean, like, why you would think, I'm going to run to their Patreon.
Because the mindset is, we'll see this, and we've seen this with comic.
Are you sure that's what happened? You sure
Yes.
it wasn't like somebody there on this new
Well,
team
it could have been.
had a
It could
problem
have
with
been.
him? Because it doesn't make sense.
Well, this Jacqueline Hart, we'll look into Jacqueline Hart. It
doesn't make sense.
She's only been with Patreon for like 2 months.
Oh, when all the shit started?
Yes. So she's only been there for like 2 months. So her team, their job might be censorship. They might be the moral authority, and she is going to cost Patreon a shit ton of money.
I hope it was worth it.
It was worth it. She hasn't even been there for 3 months. I wonder if she's going to get her permanent employee status after this. She hasn't even been there for 3 months, and they already have an article in the New York effing Times on Christmas Eve, which is why we missed it, because we were busy with real life and doing Christmas stuff. So Sam Harris, who's an atheist, and he has a popular podcast called Waking Up. He was making tens of thousands of dollars a month from fans on Patreon, and he announced that he's not going to be on Patreon anymore. We know that because they kicked Sargon off. They kicked Milo off after like a day.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but because of that, there has been a domino effect, and that's what I want to talk about. It's not just the deal with Sargon and whether or not you support Sargon or agree with Sargon, but what this means for all
users
users
of
of
Patreon. Do with
Patreon.
whether or not you like him or not.
No, that's not the issue.
It's not a payment processing place's job to decide if you're a decent human being or not.
Right. That is not, no. But again, they have gone from viewing themselves as a payment processor to,
I get that, yes,
to a publisher, to a gatekeeper. Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin, again, both of them have huge followings. They are leaving. We had, let's see, there was another big podcast, crime podcast. The name escapes me at the time, but they announced that they're leaving. A lot of people have said, screw you, Patreon.
Okay.
Because of this, we're leaving.
We left.
Yeah, we left now. Obviously, we're not making that. But we only started Patreon a couple months ago. We did have some backers. Thank you for that. We did send an email out and said, hey, we're not going to do it. We don't want to get knee deep in Patreon.
Well, they back us. They probably already, knew about this.
A lot of people actually had already pulled out.
Yeah.
So they said the recent expulsions seem more readily explained by political bias, Mr. Harris wrote to his followers. So yeah, there is a political bias, I think.
Definitely.
Because
there's always a political bias.
The people who are being kicked off of the platform tend to be, I don't know how you put it, anti-SJW, I guess would be the term. I don't know. But they're not far left, let's put it that way.
I would just say far left. I hate using the SJW term, like throwing it around. To me, that's like throwing around the term Nazi all the time,
Yeah.
Some people legitimately are.
Well, no, I'm trying to say, because I guess if I would use that as a pejorative, I would use it to describe someone who is very
if someone's going around deliberately trying to find things to get people thrown off for, then I would definitely constitute them as that.
And I think I've said before that, we don't use the term, but I'm just saying, like, these would be the kinds of people that they seem to be targeting. The people who are
in a world where if you disagree with somebody, you're automatically a Nazi.
Yeah,
this isn't surprising.
It doesn't take much. I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. It does not take much to get on the wrong side of the ire to get the ire of these people, because you can be a moderate and be called names and be called alt-right and be called
no, you can just say something simple as well, you're a woman, aren't you feminist? Yeah, but I also think that doesn't make all men bad. But you're a Nazi.
Yeah, I know.
I think Marvel numbers are a little worrisome. You alt-right Nazi.
Yeah, well,
literally.
yeah.
You alt-right Nazi for questioning Marvel sales numbers. I mean, it's ridiculous.
So they're trying to justify, Patreon is trying to, or the New York Times is trying to justify Patreon's decision by comparing it to Alex Jones and how Alex Jones is violating hate speech rules, setting off a cascading effect. Alex Jones, of course, was incredibly controversial, and he was deplatformed from all the major social media platforms like in one day. Like, they all kicked him off. They all got together.
See, that sounds to me so much like that to me sounds like more like Nazism.
Yeah, this guy's a threat. We don't like what he's saying.
I don't agree with this guy. I'm just saying, to me, that's more worrisome, because to me, when you all decide he's problematic and you all decide at the same time to throw him off, that sounds to me more like a Nazi move than the other thing.
Right, and the thing is that it does set off a cascading effect, because the effect is other people look at that. Maybe these other people aren't nearly as quote-unquote problematic as, say, Alex Jones, but they're still concerned now that they could be deplatformed at any time for saying the wrong thing.
Concerned and not agree with what they're saying.
Right.
I mean, just because you're concerned about it does not mean that I agree with what they're saying. That does not mean that at all. People, again, on social media don't seem to understand that.
No. So as tech platforms try to get a handle on the issue, they're stoking the ire of their content creators, many of whom brand themselves as free speech warriors. Is that the opposite of an SJW, an FSW?
Well, see, I thought they were for free speech, but I guess not. Anyway, go ahead.
No, they're not. They're for
free speech as long as it's what they want to say.
Yeah. Some accuse companies of censorship. Others say the tech sites are biased and that hate speech is an ambiguous term. It is. I think it is. I don't
think it's an ambiguous term.
I think it depends on...
I think hate speech is hate speech, and I think where they're saying ambiguous is because it seems to be that if you say hate speech that certain people on the left don't like, it's hate speech. But they can say all kinds of nasty things, call people Nazis and whatever. But that's not hate speech. That's not hate speech. So I'm not saying it's ambiguous. I think it's biased.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now the digital dissent is becoming increasingly widespread, upending even smaller websites. Yes. There's going to be a cascading effect. And the reason we're covering this, because we do talk about comics, we talk about animation, we talk about doing your own thing. Most comic book creators, most webcomics creators, most animators are using Patreon or Kickstarter or a combination of both. And it is very, very important that you understand exactly how these companies operate, because, the basket might break. The bottom might fall out at some point. Mm-hmm. So do not put all your eggs into these baskets. I'm just telling you.
Do we have to read the whole article?
No, I wasn't going to.
Because you do all the time.
I'm not going to read the whole article. I am going to talk about Patreon, how they take a highly personal approach to policing speech, while Google and Facebook use algorithms.
Wasn't this a recent thing, though?
I think it's a recent
thing. Highly personal approach to this like 6 months ago.
That was before Jacqueline Hart joined Patreon.
And they take a highly personal approach to policing what speech, and again, what they view as hate speech, which is all clear. It seems to be more on one side than the other. Go ahead.
Well, this is where it gets really concerning. Okay, so they have human moderators, apparently. Okay, they have human beings who will reach out. Now, according to what I have heard of the Sargon situation, nobody had actually reached out to Sargon. He was just had the plug pulled, and that was it.
And it wasn't like something he said months and months and months and months
ago. It was
ago?
like almost a year on somebody else's YouTube channel, and it was taken out of context. As I understand it, he was actually attacking the alt-right using the N-word, and they took it and said, well, because you used that on somebody else's live stream.
Which again seems to me like somebody had out for him more
than
anything.
Yeah, there's no...
I mean, it was clearly a hit on him. But go ahead.
Well, side note, we did a search on Patreon's own site for the N-word, and we found many posts that are actually posted on Patreon using the N-word from active accounts.
Mostly it's against you. You know, it's in defense of not using the N-word.
Right.
But so was what he said, apparently.
So I mean, this is all, again, I do not watch Sargon, but from what I understand about the situation, this whole thing all happened off of Patreon's platform, which is why it's so concerning to me. If he broke Patreon's rules and posted, quote unquote hate speech on Patreon's platform, and it was a rule that was unilaterally enforced,
that's just it. It's arbitrary.
Right.
And if you had these algorithms, it should have flagged that word. It'd be flagging the words on Patreon now.
Yeah, message boards. Message boards have filters, content filters. You can block that word from appearing on your forums.
So whatever.
I mean, surely they can do it. But they have human monitors. This is where I'm really concerned. They give warnings and reach out to talk to offenders, presenting options for education and reform.
Oh my God.
Education and reform. Some activists hope this will become a model for a better and kinder internet. So they perform an intervention. Is that what
basically
they
you
do?
say something they personally don't like? They'll reach out to you and say, or somebody else flags it. They'll reach out to you and give you the chance to reform, repent for your sins. Which I have to get this in here now because this is something that's been bothering me for a while. Is a lot of these people are like super anti-Christian. They're like, they hate Christians. They're like, well, and and the reasoning is because they say Christians are very unaccepting. Christians are very, they're more about their dogma. Christians are about, they're not nice to people. They believe in their religion, and I don't believe in their religion, and they're just a bunch of nuts trying to evangelize to everyone. Okay, they don't like Christians, but they're doing the exact same thing. They're doing the exact same thing.
This sounds like, I mean, the previous Patreon video, I put the Spanish Inquisition from Monty Python in the thumbnail. This sounds like the Spanish Inquisition.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah,
repent.
Education and reform. I mean, this is crazy language to be using by a company that's supposed to be a payment processor. That clearly everything is very, very personal. They take everything personal.
This is like the Shira article where they're like, they're teaching kids, decency. Well, it's up to the parents to teach their kids decency, not you. Where is it your job to educate somebody?
Well, Jacqueline Hart, who is the head of the Trust and Safety Committee for Patreon, thinks it's her job. She doesn't look very happy. She doesn't seem like a very happy person. Jacqueline Hart, Patreon's head of Trust and Safety, said her team watches for and will investigate complaints about any content posted on Patreon and other sites like YouTube and Facebook. So they patrol YouTube and Facebook that violates what it defines as hate speech. So just to be clear, if you are a content creator and you are using Patreon, if you use the wrong words, even outside of Patreon on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or
Is there a list of wrong words?
No. Just nebulous hate speech. What's hate speech?
Well, because what can be hate speech with one person won't be hate speech with another person. Because, apparently, to me, calling somebody a Nazi simply because they don't agree with you, it would be hate speech. But to a lot of these people, that's just okay because, that's fine. So where's the list? So if someone calls me a Nazi, I can report them?
There needs to be an actual...
Even though I lean left?
Yeah, there needs to be an actual list of permaban offensive. Now they say they reach out. Now Sargon, as I understand it, was never given a warning. He just had his funding pulled, and we'll see that there are other examples of creators who aren't even political that have just had their accounts suspended or held up for no reason.
You and I can flag you for no reason. And the thing is, let me just say, a team that goes and watches and investigates complaints, I agree with. I think you need a team that's going to brand them. But my thing is, there's people that don't like you and they will flag you for whatever reason. You're their competition. They fear that you do things in the same vein and you're getting all the money.
Yeah.
Or they just don't like you because you don't like the same movie they like or whatever. They can go and flag you for whatever. So of course, having a team in place to investigate these is a good thing. Normally, but it needs to be unilaterally enforced, and we're seeing that it's not arbitrary.
It's very arbitrary. So again, this is nebulous. That includes serious attacks or even negative generalizations of people based on their race and sexual orientation.
So when you say you're a misogynist straight white guy, wouldn't that be hate speech?
That you would think. She has said, is this actually in Patreon's terms of service? I don't know. They need to actually have a bullet point. These are the offending terms.
You don't like Star Wars, so you're clearly a Nazi. That would be hate speech.
Yeah, you're a Russian bot. You have to be, because everybody loved The Last Jedi.
Right. So if someone accuses me of being, a man, a white guy when I'm not, couldn't I flag that for hate speech? Because, nothing's more hateful apparently than white dudes.
So, yeah, I know, right? So if someone has breached Patreon's policy, the company contacts the offender with a specific plan, which usually involves asking for the content to be removed and for a public apology.
Okay, the content to be removed I can understand, but you can't make somebody apologize for it.
Like, did you like, I am sorry I offended your sensibilities.
But then when you apologize for it, they get mad at you like Chris Pratt.
Yeah, I know.
They still
It wasn't a sincere apology. Now, I have heard, and again, I'm not 100% clear on what went down exactly with Sargon, but I heard apparently there was some kind of apology, but they did not feel it was sincere enough. And because it wasn't sincere enough, the Great Pumpkin did not come. I guess.
I'm like, wait, so who decides whether it's sincere enough?
She does.
That's what I'm saying. This is ridiculous. Well, the Stark is that office is all like black and white, so it's obviously clear cut. Why can't they make it that, clean cut on their, guidelines?
Thinking about people she can kick off of Patreon. The conversations with creators can quickly become complicated, nuanced, and, well, human, she said. Among other challenges...
You're accusing me of things I didn't do. I'm going to get pissed,
Among other challenges, Patreon has to decide what qualifies as a sincere and thorough apology.
So basically, they have to. She has to decide if she thinks it's sincere or not. Well, people aren't going to be sincere because if they didn't do anything wrong in the first place and you're being ridiculous, they're not going to be like, oh, I'm the sincerest apology ever because you didn't do anything wrong in the first place. Now, if you use slang, like hate speech, actual hate speech, you should be sorry.
That's like I said, what is this? Is she the fucking Great Pumpkin or something?
I feel like she's like the principal at school. We're all back in elementary school or, high school now.
This is what it feels like.
And the principal's going to tell you what, and I'm like, if someone did say something legitimately shitty, you should apologize because you shouldn't say things that are actual hate speech. Actual hate speech is garbage.
Right, and I think it should be kind of like, even YouTube sometimes can be a little bit dubious, but at least they usually give you an email. They send you an email and they tell you what the problem was, or they give you like a 3 strikes you're out rule.
Yeah.
Or they put you in timeout. Maybe you can't upload live streams or you can't upload videos or whatever. This is just very... It's basically what does Jacqueline think of your content?
Yeah, do we think you're a good enough person or not? Did you apologize in a way that we felt was apology enough?
Yeah.
It's like, here's my apology for you. Kiss my butt.
Yeah, this is crap. Still, having human moderators has changed its users' behaviors more than simply deleting accounts. What Ms. Hart said. This is all about what Ms. Hart says.
But they're going around deleting accounts anyway, so...
God, she's like the umbrage of...
We have actual people talking about who did nothing, talking about how their accounts were screwed up. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Well, here we're going to talk about this one more thing here again, because here's this term again. We handhold creators and we work with them one-on-one, and nearly every creator reforms, and so it's quite a successful process.
I just don't like the choice of the word reforms. I mean, every creator, people maybe misunderstood things, and we basically explained to them how, that can be misconstrued, and then they work on, how can you be better about not saying this stuff in the future.
Yeah.
No, we reform, which sounds like religion.
It sounds
like a religion.
Like a religious conversion. Like you will renounce your wicked ways.
You'll be better educated by our dogma,
and we're gonna watch
you. We're gonna you will play by our religious rules to participate in our church of Patreon.
Yeah, and the thing is it's not just Patreon. We're seeing it on to some degree with Kickstarter too.
Yeah, I'm just
not
saying.
As pronounced, but yeah,
this church of whatever, and start here.
Well, we saw this with the Comicsgate situation. We saw so many comic book creators giving a formal declaration renouncing Comicsgate and all of its wicked ways because they wanted to keep working in the industry.
It's like, you're pledging your allegiance. It's like you're pledging your allegiance to something. It's like, this is insane. It's I shouldn't have to pledge my allegiance to McDonald's to work at McDonald's. You know what I mean? I shouldn't have to follow the religion of Ronald
to
work at
Ronald as your
Lord and Savior.
Savior.
It's like, this is ridiculous. It's like, do you accept these people are your overlords and you will understand and you will appeal to everything they say and fight for what they believe?
She does not smile in any photo.
Well, she's probably trying to look serious, like taken seriously.
She has been there. Okay, so let's
I'm sure she's not happy right now because there's a lot of crap coming down.
I think this whole thing happened because I think Patreon is going to double down on trying to She's only been with the company for like 2 months.
She might be the scapegoat, for all we know.
Who knows? Who knows? So before we go into Jacqueline's history, and it does get complicated because the excuse given to Sargon, I believe, was PayPal will no longer process your payments or some bullshit like that. And then so guys like Sargon and Milo and all these other controversial figures went to another service called SubscribeStar, and SubscribeStar, oops, PayPal stopped taking their payment.
And what did I say to you when that happened?
This sounds like corporate espionage.
I said it sounds like that. I didn't know. No, I didn't know the connection then.
Yeah.
I just said it sounds like Patreon saw a competitor and they went and underhandedly, cut funding to the competitor to take them out, which is not probably, it's questionable ethics and legality. But they're the expert on ethics, so we can ask them.
So trust and safety, Jacqueline Hart, trust and safety at Patreon. This is her LinkedIn.
Was her LinkedIn.
Was her LinkedIn. She has actually nuked her LinkedIn. Jacqueline Hart has nuked her LinkedIn. As far as we can tell, this is a screen capture of Jacqueline Hart's LinkedIn. And look, she used to work for PayPal. She worked PayPal for 8 years. You don't think in 8 years?
Oh, and same thing, risk operations and merchant support. So she probably talks to people who are dealing with people that they would consider risky investments or whatever. So she'd know exactly who to call to cut funding to a competitor.
So you don't think that in the 8 years that Jacqueline Hart worked at PayPal, she didn't make connections that she could put on speed dial? Like, oh, look, we banned Sargon. We don't like Sargon. Oh, he's going over to SubscribeStar. You wouldn't
want to be associated with that kind of bad behavior, would you, PayPal?
Right. So he's going to SubscribeStar. He's taking some other disgruntled Patreon people to SubscribeStar. This could be a problem for us at Patreon. So yeah, let's call my friends up at PayPal and get that shit shut down.
How long has SubscribeStar been around?
Not even a year. I think it's been...
Okay, but why did they not care to stop PayPal why did PayPal work with them before, and now suddenly they don't work with them as soon as she comes on?
Well, Jacqueline Hart, who's been here since October.
We can't say that's what happened.
No, but this is speculation.
The timing is awfully odd. We're not accusing, we're just saying...
Speculation.
It's awfully odd.
It's weird that SubscribeStar, completely unrelated company, is having issues with PayPal. Jacqueline Hart worked for PayPal. Jacqueline Hart, the drama started when she started.
Just showed up.
Yeah, when she showed up in October. So I think there's some bullshit going on with Jacqueline Hart.
I still think she looks like Squirrel Girl. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying. So let's go out to Scott Helm. This is a thread here on. We're going to go out to Twitter for a little bit. And Scott Helm, who writes about security, internet security, not a political personality as far as I can tell.
Well, how did he vote?
I don't know.
Yeah, you do. How did he vote in the last election?
Oh, I don't know because he's from the UK.
He's from the UK!
So I don't know if he's pro-Brexit or not. I have no idea. I don't care.
He didn't, he can't the wrong...
Did not vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah, there you go. He didn't vote for Trump, so,
And neither did I.
Yeah, but,
if you're listening, Patreon,
everybody assumes that you did because, if you speak out, you obviously are an extreme right person. You're Nazi.
Okay, so Scott Helm. So Patreon suspended my account. They did this in secret. They do a lot of things in secret.
Yeah, but they're so open up front, and they work with you hand in hand and walk you through it and tell you that if you repented, Scott,
if you repent and reform, Scott, you get your money. They have not notified me. I simply noticed that they stopped sending me money. They haven't stopped collecting money, though. They're just keeping it. No account notification, no email. I just have this tiny little message hidden in the account section of their site. The site is really hard to use. Your creator balance is on hold while our trust and safety team reviews your account.
Okay, which would be not a problem, except how long did it take them to review this account? He goes on about it later.
Yeah, it took them a long time, and he had to complain on Twitter. One awful way to treat people. They can still send me their crappy newsletter, but letting me know that I've been suspended and my money won't be arriving right before the holidays, that is some next level shit. They said there was suspicious activity. They sent him a very...
but they didn't say what or why or anything.
They said it was... Yeah, they finally sent something. I don't know how they detected this suspicious activity, but it was enough for them to take action, but not enough for them to tell me. The suspension came between 18 and 47 days ago based on my missed payouts. No review has taken place in that time.
But they work with you hand in hand, and they contact you right away and say, you might be shut off if you don't repent and apologize.
If you don't repent.
And we actually work with you to educate you, to let you know what's wrong and make sure you know that you can be a better person if you follow our rules.
If you repent and give a public apology, we might let you back on Patreon.
If you tithe by giving us our
If you tithe. Oh my God, it is a tithe. Because it's like between 5 and 10%. If you tithe to Patreon, if you tithe to the Church of Patreon, and you repent in public, you might be let back on the platform.
Right.
Maybe,
possibly.
Because you need them, right?
If
No,
they like
you don't.
You enough.
If they like you enough. So Patreon.
Enough.
When can I expect this review to take place? How do I find out why I was suspended? When will I receive my money? Oh, hey, look, right after he tweeted at them, hey, look, I just got a new patron. Thanks for that. But Patreon, tweeting at them, didn't tell me that I'm currently suspended and won't get the money. Nor did they tell me the person who just decided to pledge. This is seriously bad. It's a Christmas miracle.
People are still allowed to pledge these accounts.
Yes.
And they're taking the money.
They're taking the money, but they're not giving it to the
But they're not marking it that there's, they should be at least not letting new pledges occur, or they shouldn't be charging people's cards if there's a problem.
Scott Helm, it's a Christmas miracle with no explanation, no apology. Patreon have said that I can have the money that others donated to me. So he got a Christmas miracle. Good news, Scott. Our trust and safety team.
Oh, wait. Okay, keep going.
Trust and safety team has reviewed your page and everything looks good. Your creator balance is available for transfer. Oh, but wait. There's more. A few emails further up, I got this. Apparently someone suspicious pledged to me, so they suspended my account to make sure it hadn't been hacked. Can anyone explain that to me? Like, yeah, if there is a suspicious backer,
why did you freeze his whole account?
Why don't you just ban their pledge or ban that user?
Or hold that pledge.
Right.
You wouldn't ban the person's account
and then not tell them for almost 2 months.
And not tell anybody else so they can keep pledging to it.
Thank you for your patience during our investigation. He only got this email because he tweeted at Patreon and made a shitstorm on the internet. They would not have contacted him otherwise. We apologize for the delay in this month's payout. When we detect a suspicious individual attempting to make a pledge, occasionally your funds may become frozen. If the guy pledges $5, just don't give him the $5.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
How hard is that? Bold. Everything appears to be in order. Your funds are now available. Sorry you had to wait almost 2 freaking months.
If someone gives you a bad check in the bank account, you might have to pay a fee for. You usually have to pay a bad check fee, and they won't put that check. They won't put that money in your account. But they're not going to close your account or freeze your account because you deposited a check.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. So he's actually going to Flatter, which is, I guess, an alternative for now.
Until they go to their PayPal account and tell them they can't take it.
But I don't think, because I don't think he does any risque content. He basically just talks about security, internet security.
He's not even from America, so.
He's not even from America. So Patreon, this is hilarious. So trying to send out good vibes to people today, Patreon puts this out. Creating and fostering a strong community is one of the best ways to deliver consistent long-term value.
Which I agree with. I don't agree with it. I don't think they're doing it, but I agree with that.
We've noticed 17 benefits that crop up in the communities that use Patreon as a hub for collecting pledges and fostering tight-knit relationships.
And number one benefit is you get a big chunk of it. I mean, they didn't post that bit.
Tons of comments.
I know, these are funny.
None of them positive. Patreon cannot be trusted. Translation: creating a strong authoritarian attitude is one of the best ways to alienate creators and patrons. First viable alternative arises and you guys are done. Bye-bye. Benefit number 18, the reward in knowing you've bent to our will.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, bend a knee and tell us.
17 rewards for having the right group think.
Oh, that feeling. We're sorry to see you go. This person just canceled their account. You burned any goodwill you ever had the moment a viable alternative arises. Your platform will be abandoned by 50% of your users. You sound a lot like this fella, Harvey Weinstein. Hollywood has the best moral compass. Oh my God. Your reputation is worthless now that it has been revealed that your trust and safety team, basically I think it comes down to her, your trust in safety team are a bunch of far-left vigilante activists. Ooh. Why don't you enforce your unwritten terms of service consistently?
That's what I'm saying. If it was consistent, it's the inconsistency and the ambiguity of it that I think people have a problem with. Go ahead.
You could have been the company that stood for free speech against the payment processors. They cut you off. If they cut you off, every creator on YouTube would be singing your praises and rallying against people against PayPal and MasterCard. Everybody hates you. No long-term value sustainable, and Patreon violates basic contact laws. Big Brother Conte. Get woke, go broke. Oh, community that believes the ideological rhetoric you approve of, you mean. There's nothing positive.
There's sure? Yeah, some positive.
There isn't one positive comment. Should be a big signal. Creating and fostering strong community. Great. How do you do that when you don't live up to your word and you treat people differently based on individual
That's just it. There's
basis?
no, you cannot, I mean, if something's fair, it's got to be, you can't, arbitrarily punish certain people, but then, reward other bad behavior that's equally as bad, but on a different side. And that's just what I keep seeing over and over again, is that, bad behavior is bad behavior.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I don't care if you're far left, if you're far right, if you're even in the middle, I don't care where you are. If you act in a bad, if you act in a bigoted, bad behavioral way against anybody, you're a dick. Sorry.
Yeah, Patreon cannot be trusted, and this is not the first boner that Patreon has pulled. Last year,
they pull boners?
They did. Well, last year,
I'm sorry.
That's the not safe for work content that requires a filter. No. Last year. Now, if you didn't watch previous video, there was a big issue over at Patreon where a lot of people abandoned the platform because they were going to charge the backers for the Patreon fee. So they were going to charge backers, even if you pledge $5, you're going to have to pay an additional 50-60 cents on your $5 pledge.
If you back several people, it can add up to a lot of money.
Does add up. This is a red flag. This is dubious. Very, very dubious. Nothing you say is... People do not trust Patreon. You should not, in my own personal opinion.
And the thing is...
Should not trust Patreon.
The thing is, people like Patreon and Kickstarter and that, they just kind of took a business models that people were using in webcomics for years.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We can absolutely talk about that. And we'll talk about Kickstarter. So I'm going to single out Sluggy Freelance, who has been doing webcomics forever.
He's also very nice.
He's also very nice. We did a convention with him. I don't know where I don't think he's ever used Patreon, Pete Abrams, but he's been doing the Sluggy Freelance comic forever. Now, he was actually one of the first to set up the subscription reward system. Mm-hmm. Patreon has only been around for about 5 or 6 years now. They lifted, what webcomicers and podcasters were already doing. Right. They lifted it, and then they get their cut. So not only are you paying the PayPal fees, the processing fees or whatever, you're also paying Patreon another 5 or 10% or whatever their cut is, their tithe. You're giving Patreon their tithe. So, like, if you go to Sluggy's page, you donate directly to him. He's got his own kind of Patreon running on his site. He doesn't pay Patreon anything. He's got, you can subscribe per strip or per month or however you want to do it. And again, this is just one example. And the reason I'm using Sluggy Freelance is because he's been doing it for so long, and he's been doing it successfully for so long. And he's, again, Patreon lifted this model from webcomicers, from podcasters who were already doing it. They were already doing it. Patreon's like, yeah, that's the ticket. We're gonna skim some money off the top.
Kickstarter is basically like people were doing the same things. They were doing pre-orders for their books.
Yeah,
it was a common thing before Kickstarter. It was that you do a pre-order and you let it run for like a couple months. People could prepay for the books, and then you'd order the books and deliver them. And if you wanted to throw some stuff in there, it was the exact same thing. All they did was just take it and make a site about it.
So this brings us back to Kickstarter, and I don't know exactly where Kickstarter is going to go in terms of policing the content. We know they've always reviewed projects based on content. Guidelines. Like if you go to submit a comic book about how to cook and eat children, and it's not tongue-in-cheek, they probably will not let you run the project on the platform.
They probably also call the police, which I don't blame them.
Yeah. So there are projects that get kicked, whether they think that the presentation is not professional enough or whatever the deal is. Now, they did hire a person after this happened who has experience with like Top Cow in DC, who is kind of going to be, I guess, a comic book outreach person. This happened in April. Now, Diversity in Comics has a very popular, very controversial YouTube channel. Richard Meyer decided in April he was going to submit his Jawbreakers comic book project to Kickstarter. Now, the comic book itself contains no controversial themes as far as I know. It is a straight up superhero comic, and there's nothing controversial about it. However, there are people at Kickstarter who apparently know who Richard Meyer is.
Because I'm looking at what they wrote, but his proposal had nothing to do with those things.
Right, and this is what concerns me about this, because again, his project had nothing to do with what their complaints were. So he said, he submitted the project. He said, "Hello, I believe the project does meet your rules. It's a simple story about superheroes rescuing a monster that people want to exploit. The superheroes are diverse racially and sexually." Yeah, he actually has a gay person on the team. He's got black folks on the team. He's got, both I and the artist are veterans. My family is diverse. I have a Muslim daughter. Apparently he's talked about them on his channel before, and a Hispanic son. There is no discrimination in the book or in the campaign. Kickstarter says, "Hi Richard, thanks for sharing your project with us. We've carefully reviewed it against our rules and were unable to approve it to launch. As a public benefit corporation committed to fighting inequality and creating a more equitable world, Kickstarter does not allow projects that promote discrimination, subjugation, or intolerance toward marginalized groups."
What part of the project did that?
It did not. It's because somebody at Kickstarter, whether it's the people that are in the comic book review team or whatever, somebody notified Kickstarter and said that Richard Meyer, with his Muslim daughter and Hispanic son, is a hate monger because the comic book industry does not like Richard Meyer right now.
Well, couldn't you fight that, because it's discrimination? We don't allow discrimination unless we're discriminating.
Pretty much. So
we don't allow intolerance unless we're being intolerant.
If I had to guess what happened, and I do not know the ins and outs of what happened, but if I had to guess as to what happened, the comic book community, everybody in the comic book community talks. And I'm guessing they probably had contacts at Kickstarter. They probably told Kickstarter that, Richard Meyer, Diversity in Comics, is not well liked.
And they knew he was gonna do a Kickstarter.
Yeah, because he said he was gonna do a Kickstarter.
I just don't.
And they said that again, though, this is this nebulous. This is very much like what happened to Sargon, where he didn't actually violate any of Kickstarter's rules. If there was any violation that they might consider, something he said as hate speech, it would be on YouTube videos or whatever. It had nothing to do with the project he submitted, but because, his YouTube channel is controversial, there are people in the comic book industry that really don't like him.
No, the person with the comment below doesn't seem to like him either.
Yeah, this is Richard Pitt. Apparently they go back and forth. I don't know. So because of that, Kickstarter decided they were going to be the moral police and ban his project.
That's my problem. It's like, here's my thing. It's like, I don't necessarily agree with people that, my defense of the fact that, they shouldn't be the moral authority and they shouldn't be telling people what they can and can't say isn't because I necessarily agree with people that say these things. It's because I don't think it's their place to determine what I mean. If you submitted a book that was like, obviously, that you were doing all kinds of nasty, horrible things, people that were different than you, or that you were actually doing, you submitted a project that actually was discriminating, subjugating, and showing intolerance, I can completely 100% see why you would have not allow it. I'd be like, hell yeah, I'd allow that.
Like if Jawbreakers was like, yeah, we break the jaws of
women,
marginalized groups.
I can see it. I can totally see it. I would totally agree with them on that. But the fact that, that's not what it was about, and it was clearly against him personally and not against the project. Just like it seems that there's an awful lot of personal, and even they keep going about how personal everything is. Yeah, it's like you personally are picking people to go after. It just seems that way.
Well, that's what happened.
Or somebody is reporting them because they have a personal problem with
I think they're reporting them, and they're like, have you seen his videos? Let me send you a link to one of his videos, and then, don't let this guy
not just him, I'm just saying on the Patreon. It could be like, Patreon or whatever. It could be that it sounds to me like a lot of people are just going around flagging people for different things. And even the reason that guy might have waited so long to get a response was because they might be getting backlogs. People are like, oh, we got so-and-so removed by flagging him. Let's go flag everyone.
Yeah, it's intermittent reinforcement.
I think that's kind of what's going on.
And so, the funny thing about this is because Kickstarter turned him down, he went to Indiegogo, their direct competitor. Mm-hmm. He launched the project. He made like $400,000 which is probably more than he would have made on Kickstarter. And because of the story, and the support he got, from people outside of comics, he made almost $500,000, might be more than that. Kickstarter lost a lot of money. Other creators looked at this situation and they're like, yeah, we're not doing Kickstarter. We're going Indiegogo. So now Indiegogo's comic book division has exploded. It used to be that Indiegogo was a place that you went, if you were out of the country a lot of times, or just for some other reason you couldn't use Kickstarter.
You didn't know if you didn't need to be fully funded, but you need partial funding, because Kickstarter is all or nothing. Indiegogo you can choose.
Yeah, so now Indiegogo has completely blown up because they would take the projects that, and they view themselves, I think, as a payment processor. So yeah, I mean, basically it is getting to the point where, payment processors are dictating where you spend your money. And that is a problem. That is a problem. So
I don't see how this is, how this is okay. I'm like, people shouldn't be allowed to tell you what you can and can't think. And as much as they scream, you can't tell us what to think, but they're telling everybody else what to think. And I'm like, and before we get the inevitable commenter, well, here it is, alt-right morons. We aren't right.
No.
We are right, but we're not on the right.
This is concerning. So I think where I really want to go with this because, Patreon and Kickstarter, especially to creatives, are incredibly important parts of... Recently. To your business model, to most people's business model who make art and comics.
Time for a new business model.
It is time to look for another way to monetize your work, because I think... with these companies, the blowback from this with Patreon is going to be huge. Even if you disagree with the people that they banned, even if you're like, yeah, thankfully they kicked that guy off the platform, so many people are going to leave Patreon now that it's going to be a ghost town.
Yeah,
I think.
I'm 100% for...
It's not safe.
I'm 100% for people who violate clear-cut terms of service being removed because they did things that they shouldn't have done. I'm 100% for people using really, really derogatory and hateful and nasty comments being removed from my platform because of things they've done. But what makes me mad is, while there are people being removed for things that, they find derogatory, whatever, they are allowed to say whatever the hell they want is derogatory. It's, you're basically calling people, horrible names, and then labeling them all these ists, whether they are or not, because you don't like them, and they're allowed to say and do that.
Well,
with no repercussions.
Yeah,
whatsoever.
there absolutely
That's what I
is.
have a problem with.
Yeah, there is a bias because you look at Twitter. I mean, we could, that's a whole nother video, but you look at Twitter, and if there's even the slightest whiff of infraction from some people, they're immediately banned from Twitter. Whereas there are other people who spend all day trolling folks.
Or you may saying they wish they could blow up all the GOP. Or,
and they're allowed to say
Republicans should shit off boots and everything else.
Yes, there are people saying things like that.
But there's no punishment because that's okay. That's not hate speech.
That's not hate speech.
But if you say I don't like The Last Jedi, you misogynist, anti-feminist, woman-hating bigot.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? Just, start shoveling your shit back in, because you're just spewing the same stuff out. It's a different side of the same coin. You are the exact same thing. You have become what you hate. It's just a different side of the coin.
Yeah, so, the long and short of it is, with this, is right now with the stuff going on Patreon, I cannot recommend any young creative starting an account on Patreon, because I think they're in for a serious world of hurt. I think you need to look at other options. Again, people were making money off of their comics before Patreon was even a thing.
Right, and there are other things you can do.
Yeah.
There's other places that take it. There's other plugins you can do if you have your own site.
Yeah.
There's other things you can do. You don't have to depend on it. Now, the scary thing is, though, a lot of these use PayPal. Who's to say that some people they don't like go start something else, and then here comes Patreon telling PayPal they can't do it again or whatever.
Yeah, I think, PayPal, I don't know. I'd like to think that they're more bank-like, but I have heard that there have been issues with PayPal taking transactions from people they don't like. I don't know. But, anyway, I'm telling you, if you're going to make your own stuff, just for your own safety, regardless of where you fall on this, the whole political thing, neutral parties are going to get caught in the crossfire.
Well, the one guy didn't even do anything.
No, he didn't even do anything. No, yeah, this dude.
Because one guy we didn't like pledged to you.
Yeah, one guy we didn't like pledged you.
He didn't even do anything wrong.
We withheld all of your money. you need to go.
I thought they reached out and walked you through it and talked to you and said, hey, there's a problem. We're here to help you. Bullshit.
Yeah, you need to go out and find a better way to make money and cut out as many middlemen as you can.
Because they're just taking cuts.
They're just taking a cut of your money. Patreon literally does nothing. They do nothing that you can't do on your own.
Paying Patreon to behave this way.
Yeah.
You are giving them money to continue behaving badly.
Yeah.
It's basically what's going on. Because, like I said, I am 100% for kicking people off of a platform that violated terms of service and actually did things that they shouldn't have done. What I'm against is when there are no clear-cut reasons as to why. It's all arbitrary, and they basically flat out said it's up to us deciding whether or not we think that one, that you're the right kind of person, and two, that you are repentant enough in the things that we think you did or didn't do.
Yeah, that right there.
That's what's worrisome.
Literally
I can
is
tell this whole video in that
thing.
one little thing. But this arbitrary, not concrete BS is where there's a problem.
Yeah, it's really dubious. Patreon is not a solid platform. Find a way to do your own stuff. And same with the hosting. We saw Tumblr implode. And Tumblr is going to continue to implode because all the porn's taken off Tumblr. You need to host your own stuff. You need to monetize with as few middlemen as possible. And, just keep making your stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have anything else we want to say to wrap this one? I know this ran longer than we thought it was going to, but
you told me 20 minutes.
It's incredibly important. It's incredibly important because this is how so many artists, so many creatives are making their money now, and I don't think it's safe. I don't think it's going to be safe long term. You need to start looking at other solutions. It was
funny because I was on boards, and they're boards that clearly lean one way. Because we're, technically we actually are, we always fit in with these people because we always lean that way as well. And the defense for the behavior is just through the roof. They're just like, even if you point out obvious problems, they're like, it's because he was a problem. I don't have any problem with them kicking off problematic people. And it's like, as long as you don't do anything problematic, it's like, but who determines what's problematic? What if they hire someone tomorrow who determines that everything you do is problematic?
Well, that's it. This basically comes down to Jacqueline Hart's personal sensibilities, I think.
And it's somebody after her, and it's the same. What if they are, what if they deem everybody on the left is problematic?
Well,
you know what I'm saying? You need clear-cut reasons.
Right, and look at Tumblr. I mean, how many people did not safe for work images on Tumblr? Even people who weren't doing not safe for work images got kicked off of Tumblr. How many people are using Patreon to basically sell cartoon porn right now?
And you know what?
Patreon decides that's offensive.
Those people
we're not
are
do
on both sides of the political spectrum.
Yeah.
They're both right and left, and they were affected by this. You know what I'm saying? I'm just so tired of everything being based on who'd you vote for and what side are you politically, and that's what it's all coming down to, and it's stupid. It's just so stupid, and it shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't matter, but it does, and it's becoming more and more obvious that it does. And regardless of what the final outcome is going to be of this, I can't tell you, even if you agree with their decision regarding Sargon, so many people are going to leave this platform, and there's going to be so much damage done to Patreon that I cannot recommend being on the platform. If you can get off of it, get off of it.
It's just so arbitrary. And they thought it said it's people deciding based on what they feel that if you feel you're good enough. And if they don't, you have to repent.
You have to repent.
Apologize to your Lord.
You have to be sincere, so the Great Pumpkin comes and gives you money. And if not, they'll just keep your money indefinitely, not give you an explanation.
Not tell your patrons either.
Yeah. So I guess we're gonna wrap this one up. It's run very long. We do apologize. Thank you for listening. I know the people who are interested in this sort of thing probably will sit through it. But yeah, this is important. This is really important. This is your money. This is your livelihood. If you're an artist, this is your livelihood, and it could be snapped away tomorrow.
And the Patreon, if you're listening, I just say to you, I think you need to be a lot more clear on what you define this as, and you need to actually have a list of what words or what actions or behaviors you're going to punish people for, so that it is not arbitrary. I
don't know if there's any coming back from this one. They screwed up before last year, and they apologized, and they were able to retain people. I think the damage has been done. Mm-hmm. I don't think a list is going to help. And I'm usually one of those people that, when terms of service changes stuff, I'm usually willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. And I've actually defended companies, and I've gone to bat for them, and I won't go to bat for this. No, I can't recommend them in good faith. Sorry, I think it's too nebulous and too subjective. And Jacqueline Hart should not decide who gets to. What worries me is the whole you have to apologize in the way we deem fit, and and the reform. We'll reform you, and you have to educate and reform. That to me is like
you know, if nothing else, even just because I'm just like, who do you think you are? That turns me off from that. Who do you get to decide who's a good person, who's a bad person, based on what you think?
Yeah, and the thing is you can fire Patreon tomorrow. You do not need Patreon. Other people have been doing it. They will continue to do it. And they're just taking your money. They're taking your money and offering you a bunch of bullshit in return. So I would say just get rid of them. Do your own thing. So subscribe to Clownfish TV for more pop culture news, views, rants, gaming videos, art videos, and more. Final thoughts? Okay, this has been Neon and Geeky.
Okay, we'll see you. Bye.
Bye.